So this is the second case regarding morality and how people are treated. To be fair, there's a book series of quite a number of books, and under Off-Grid Entrepreneur series rather than the Meaning of Life series, the final in the series is called Complain, Get What You Deserve, and this is really quite relevant to that. Just a bit of a background, I don't go out of my way to complain, but what I don't like is when they take the rip or the piss, or, excuse my French. So to know your legal rights, to know your legal rights about proof of purchase, to know your, hello there you, to know your legal rights to do with return of goods or faulty goods that go wrong, even if it's maybe outside the warranty but it wasn't fit for purpose, all this kind of thing's very helpful. And that involves also to do with, number one, written correspondence, number two, telephone and face-to-face. Face-to-face is always best because you can play certain psychological aspects which you can't really get across through fixed messages. So in this particular instance I'm going to give an example of was I had a golden number for my mobile which cost over 1,000 UK. 007 was the number, and the number was used on business cards, it was on websites, it was on all the emails, so it was my known WhatsApp number and my known contact number. So far so good. So this had gone on for many years, I'd had this number, and therefore it was known to many business associates, it was known to many people who own nightclubs, so if you needed to text to be able to get entry, they had that associated to their phone. And what happened was when I was in Ibiza, which is where I've lived mainly for the last few years, apart from recently 18 months in Thailand, the phone didn't work anymore and I made contact to ask. And this is what they said. They said, what's happened is you made a phone call in and got what's called the PAC Code. In other words, the code that you normally use if you're going to change supplier. I said, well, I've not made such a phone call. They said, yes, you have. And I said, no. I said, according to our records, that's what happened. I said, okay. I guess because I run multiple businesses and whatever, and the entrepreneurial mindset, the first instinctive request was, first I'd like to see a transcript of that, and I want to hear the sound recording because you almost certainly will have recorded the conversation, and therefore I can recognise that it's an imposter and not me. And besides, how did they even get through the Virgin security, Virgin Media? So they basically didn't supply that, so I pestered and pestered. I wrote, I escalated to director level. I sent multiple different sets of correspondence to basically create a multi-pronged attack. Not one positive reply. And this is the great part. Just after the 6-month point at which I'm still pestering, just after they contacted me and said, we only keep recordings for 6 months and therefore we're unable to provide it, despite having asked for it consistently over that period. So alarm bells obviously went on. Now, as it happens, one of my friends was very, very senior. He used to run Dixon Group, which includes the Link and whatever telephone organisations. So a lesser known procedure known as Lazarus resurrects numbers that are lost in space. So they could have actually taken action and helped, just resolved it anyway, but they really stuck to their guns. And when I complained, and I kind of asserted myself because they were messing me about, they asserted above, and it just went from customer services and the old school Richard Branson, now Sir Richard Branson, which was a hippie and now is the guy who's competing with Bezos and Musk regarding the rockets and the like. The whole culture and vibe, from my opinion, has changed. Incidentally, Richard Branson, when I made my first invention, Disney product when I was a teenager, he wrote back and gave a viewpoint on a product design and a product invention, which was beautiful. I mean, I always remember the wording because he wrote the letter, but he said that it's signed off and signed by Richard Branson, but in order to avoid delay, it's PP basically, someone else has signed off. And I believe that it really was him that read my letter, looked at the product and created a reply. So I was a huge fan, but obviously now the situation's arisen where I'm not so keen on Virgin Media. So what happened next is I went to the policing body, which is called CSAS, and there's other routes you can take, but they're funded by the industry, so you can hardly call that impartial. The story's quite clear. They said, that security had been hacked, and therefore it wasn't a breach of contract, it was just something that was outside of their control. But obviously they had the power to do the Lazarus and take charge of this, so therefore it was a breach of contract. And besides, you could argue that if their security system's so poor that people can easily phone up, then what kind of security are they running there? It's obviously not encrypted, or they're obviously allowing people to get very basic data to be able to get information. Now, the important part of this story is that to get the PAC code doesn't worry me. If someone just rings up and they get the PAC code by, passing off as myself when they're not, it causes no actual damage. What they need to do is take the PAC code and then use that and bring it into another supplier. And it took me months and months to find who that supplier was, and they wouldn't respond to me because they said that it wasn't in my name, which obviously it wouldn't be because it's been ported over, and therefore they couldn't disclose any information for reasons of data protection, which led me to the position, and they told me to go back to Virgin, but it was just going nowhere. And basically, if you imagine if you're a business person and you're reliant upon it, it's not just the £1,000 of in excess of the value of that golden number, which is a memorable number. It's the consequences of people who connect and can therefore create business opportunities with you, and collaborations or clients that may want some services no longer can contact you the way that they normally would, and therefore you've got lost opportunities, to say nothing of all the hassle of having to start a new number, new business cards, and a lesser number. So the point here is that Virgin really did not care whatsoever. And as I've said earlier, I have a book that is to do with exactly how to manage these situations. I hold myself out as an absolute expert, both in litigation, working as a team with professional legal representatives, whether that be contentious issues or otherwise. But I hold myself out as an expert in getting what is deserved when companies and blue chips take the piss. And let's be honest, when you look now at mobile phone suppliers, they consider it normal and acceptable to have customers wait for an hour, because the customer has now become a number and they know that you can't go anywhere other than to future suppliers. As it happens, I see that as an opportunity for the future, because I believe there will be people that want to be treated fairly and will get the response within a fair time. So their days will be numbered in terms of getting away with that. But the point being is that even someone who is very persistent, very skilled at complaining in all forms, was completely ring-fenced and blackballed. Now, as it happens, it's not over. It's still within what's called limitation time, a 7-year limitation. My option now actually is probably to take it to the United States, because the company operates globally anyway. So I can litigate through the United States. And of course, the problem now they've got is that in the United States, they have punitive damages. So instead of it just being several hundreds of pounds, we're talking millions. Not only my consequential losses, but the actual consequence of that, whereby the judge may create punitive damages that, or in fact the jury. And the unusual part of the United States litigation is that I can cite Richard Branson, for example, as the superior and senior position in the case, which will bring him, like it or not, into the case. And this is where I'm going to have to move it forward. Now, you might argue that legal cases like this should maybe be dropped and you just focus on business development and the positive energy. But we also have to remember that even though you can co-create and bring a beautiful reality, that there are many millions of people that are being trodden on. And I see this as an opportunity to equalise and change the system. So it can be a positive thing and positive energy. I kind of find it almost like Sudoku for me, the legal system and the legal ins and outs, and consulting with legal experts and getting the nuances. So it's not actually a negative energy situation. In fact, rather than it being stress, it's eustress, or distress, it's eustress, a positive energy stress. So in terms of the morality, then I think it's quite clear that these organisations and technocrats have become more and more immoral. And in fact, this is the tip of the iceberg of a lot of the behaviour they get up to. You only have to watch a movie such as The Insider with Russell Crowe and Al Pacino, which is based on a true story, and see exactly what some of these technocrat companies can get up to and what they consider to be a fly on their ass, a collateral damage, to which case they will destroy a career or whatever. So the morality here is about how these organisations are treating humanity, and therefore there needs to be a stand taken against it. And this is something where it doesn't have to be violence, of course. It's just fighting fire with fire and having people and representatives that have lucky to have connections, people that are very, very senior at law, whether it be IP lawyers or human rights lawyers or generic lawyers. So the next step, and watch this space, is actually to see where this goes in terms of taking it forward. But the point of the message is to show the morality aspect of the story.